The wind screamed through the shattered towers of what used to be Earth's last bastion of civilization. Smoke curled from the broken bones of steel skyscrapers, and ash blanketed the ground like snow. Lyra pulled her hood tighter against the cold, her boots crunching over debris and human memories. The ruins stretched far beyond what her eyes could bear, but she didn't look back. She never did. Ahead was the light, brilliant, unblinking, and wrong. She could feel it hum in her bones, pulsing like a heartbeat, calling her forward. The mission was simple. Step into the anomaly, plant the quantum tether, and come back alive. Except no one ever came back. 50 operatives before her had entered. Not one returned, no signal, no trace. They called it the light, but no one could explain what it was. It arrived 2 years ago in the middle of the final war, descending like a spear into the skies above what used to be New Chicago. Everything stopped when it landed. Drones, nukes, even the alien invaders. The war ended in silence. The light swallowed it whole. Now humanity waited in scattered bunkers and off-world outposts, praying Lyra would be the one to finally breach its mystery. She was the last soldier of the original Earth Guard, the only one left with a clean genetic slate, resistant to quantum corruption, trained in neural stability, and carrying the last relic of old Earth's resistance, a black shard fused to her spine known only as the Ember. She didn't know what it did, only that command said she had to wear it when she entered. The final checkpoint was an old metro station choked with roots and glowing mold. Lyra stepped carefully past the cracked bones of those who'd tried to take shelter here during the collapse. She paused beside the twisted remains of a child's skeleton, curled in sleep, clutching a plush tiger. Her breath hitched. She remembered her brother's tiger, the way he'd begged her to take it with her before she joined the guard. She hadn't. She'd left him behind. They said the bombs hit just after she deployed. She closed her eyes. "No ghosts," she whispered. "Not today." Her wrist monitor beeped softly, 10 meters to the event horizon. She climbed the platform stairs, the wind whipping harder now, the light burning like a second sun above the crater ahead. Each step felt heavier than the last, the air thick with electric tension. Time bent. The crater's edge shimmered like water, and beyond it, the world broke into fractals, sky folding into earth, trees turning inside out, colors that didn't exist twisting in on themselves. She reached into her pack, pulling out the tether, a dull silver spike no longer than her hand, humming with potential. She stared at it for a long moment. If she planted it, and it worked, Earth could finally anchor the anomaly. Study it. Use it. If it failed, she would vanish like the rest, her name etched into another wall. She stepped forward, 1 foot over the line. The light didn't burn her. It welcomed her. Everything around her melted into white. The crater, the city, the sound of the wind, all gone. She floated in silence. Then the voice came, not through her ears but inside her thoughts. "Why do you seek what you abandoned?" Her hand tightened around the tether. "I never abandoned it." "You left your world to die." "No," she whispered, voice cracking. "I came back." The light pulsed. Memories crashed into her mind. Her brother's laughter, the day she left home, the screams on the comms when command fell silent. Then new images, green fields, skies unbroken by war, cities that glowed with life, not fire. Futures that never happened. Futures that could. She dropped to her knees, trembling. The ember at her spine burned ice cold. "You're not real," she said through gritted teeth. "We are possibility." She screamed and jammed the tether into the white beneath her feet. The spike hissed, then glowed red, then black. For a moment, she felt everything. The pain, the joy, the forgotten lives, the ones who came before her, their last breaths frozen in horror and awe. And then, darkness. She woke on her back, staring at a sky that wasn't Earth's. Pale blue clouds drifted lazily above jagged black mountains. The air smelled of salt and electricity. She sat up slowly, painfully. The tether was gone. The ember was cool now. And the light was still there, but smaller, caged inside a spire that pulsed with shifting symbols. Someone stood in front of it, a man. He turned slowly, his eyes glowing like stars. Lyra gasped. She knew that face. She hadn't seen it since she was 8, since he had disappeared into the first light anomaly, over a decade ago. Her father smiled. "We've been waiting for you, Lyra." She opened her mouth to speak, but behind her, the ground cracked open, and something vast, cold, and ancient began to rise. The sky above twisted as if reality itself were being peeled back. Lyra stumbled to her feet, her eyes fixed on the thing rising behind her. It wasn't a machine, but it wasn't alive either. It had no clear shape, just a towering mass of shifting, translucent geometry. Black light dripped from its surface. Her body froze. Not from fear, but from something deeper, something ancestral. Every cell in her being screamed that this thing did not belong. Not here. Not anywhere. Her father didn't flinch. He stood between her and the spire, holding the light, his glowing eyes locked on the anomaly. "Don't look at it too long," he said softly. "It remembers who you were before you were born." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. You died. "The first anomaly, they said you never made it back. I did," he replied, stepping forward, "but not in a way anyone expected. The light didn't destroy me. It remade me. It showed me everything, Lyra. Time, broken, futures split. What humanity was meant to become, and what we chose instead." The creature's many edges sliced through the ground with a sound like a violin string snapping. The sky above blinked in and out. Lyra felt her balance shift even though the ground wasn't moving. "What is that?" she asked, barely able to look at it now. "The first echo," her father said. "A memory of what tried to end us before. The war. Before Earth even had a name. The light is not a weapon. It's a wound. That thing is what caused it." She blinked. "You're saying this thing predates the universe?" "Something like that. It doesn't feed on matter. It feeds on choice, on our forks in time. Every time we chose violence, division, selfishness, we widened the wound. The light tries to heal it, but it needs an anchor." Lyra shook her head. "The tether was just a key. You were the anchor." Pain spiked through her spine as the ember burned again, pulsing with the rhythm of the light behind her. She dropped to one knee, gasping. "You think the guard chose you because of your training?" "No, Lyra. You're the last unfractured soul, the only one who never gave in. The ember is old tech, pre-human. It's been waiting for someone like you for centuries." The echo took another step forward, and the world bent sideways for a moment. Trees grew in reverse, mountains collapsed upward. Lyra groaned as her head split with pressure. "Then what do I do?" she shouted. Her father reached down and pressed something into her palm. A black shard, smaller than her ember, carved with shifting lines. "You walk into the light again. But this time, you don't look for answers. You become the answer." The ground beneath her split open. Not falling, but peeling. The anomaly's hunger surged. It wasn't coming for her. It was coming for the light. The last real hope of humanity. Lyra took a step toward the spire, each footfall heavier, slower, as if time itself resisted her. "Wait," she said, turning to her father. "If you've been here all this time, why didn't you come back?" He looked away, voice a whisper. "Because I didn't deserve to." Before she could ask more, the light flared, and the shard in her hand pulled her forward. She touched the spire, and the world exploded. She stood again, But now she was in the past. New Chicago before the collapse. The streets were clean, humming with traffic. People laughed, vendors shouted. She stood in the middle of a plaza, completely invisible. No one saw her. A girl ran past her, young, maybe 7, with tangled hair and wide eyes. Lyra gasped. It was her, a younger version of herself, sprinting toward a food cart. Behind her came a boy, her brother, alive. They laughed, breathless, racing through the crowd. Her mother waved at them from a bench. Her father stood by a vending machine. The whole family, whole again. "You can live here," a voice whispered in her mind. "We can give this to you, forever. No war, no death, no pain." She turned slowly, and the voice had a form now, a woman in white, skin glowing, eyes filled with stars. "Not human, not anything. This is what we offer," the figure said. "Not illusion. Possibility. Let the light end, and you may remain." Lyra looked back at the scene, her mother hugging her, her father laughing, her brother handing her a sweet wrapped in gold foil. She almost stepped forward. Then she saw the edges flicker, the smiles twitch, her brother's hand, looping the same motion over and over. A glitch, a fracture, a lie. Tears streamed down her face. "No," she whispered. "This isn't peace. It's a prison." The woman's smile faded. "You could have had everything," she said. "I do," Lyra replied, turning her back. "I have purpose." She plunged the shard into her chest. Pain flooded her. Not death, transformation. She burned from the inside, out as the ember fused with the light, as every choice she had ever made lined up like stars on a path. The world fell away. She was standing again in the spire. The light caged, the echo advancing, the sky folding into screams. But now she glowed. The ice shard in her chest pulsed with her heartbeat. The light flared in resonance. The echo stopped, sensing something it hadn't felt in eons. Fear. Lyra raised her hand, and for the first time the light obeyed her. She stepped forward, into the path of the ancient thing, and whispered, "You've fed on us long enough." The world cracked, and the echo screamed. Then, a shadow blinked into being beside her. Tall, thin, wearing the tattered uniform of a guard long dead. It was herself, an older Lyra, scarred, hardened, but alive. "I didn't think I'd make it in." "Time," the older version said, drawing a blade made of light. Lyra stared in shock. "What? How?" The ground split open beneath them as the echo lunged with 1,000 arms, and both versions of Lyra leapt forward into the jaws of the impossible. The world tore apart in silence. No sound, only raw sensation. Lyra felt her body twist through dimensions she couldn't name, folding and unfolding like a living equation. She and her older self plunged through the echo's abyss, their bodies, made of light and memory, blades raised against something that was never meant to be fought. The echo screamed, not with voice, but through time itself. The mountains behind them melted into sand. Stars blinked out in the sky above as the thing fed on every unrealized possibility, devouring not what was, but what could have been. Lyra slashed with the blade of light, carving lines of truth into the shifting skin of the echo. Her older self moved beside her, perfect synchronization, neither needing to speak. They were one soul, divided by time, united by purpose. The echo shifted again, turning its form into something more familiar. A soldier, a commander, her mother, her brother, her father. They stood before her, bloodied and pleading. "You can stop this," her brother whispered. "Just let go. Let the light fade. Let us all be free." The younger Lyra hesitated. Her blade faltered. But her older self shouted, "That's not them. That's what it wants you to see. The illusion collapsed into dust, and Lyra screamed in rage. She drove the blade through the echo's heart, a heart made of broken choices and dead futures. Light erupted from the wound, and for the first time, the echo recoiled. But it didn't die. It changed. It folded inward, then burst outward, duplicating into 100 forms, each one a version of Lyra who had failed. Lyra, who had turned back. Lyra, who had taken the illusion, stayed in the false peace, let the world burn. They circled her like vultures, whispering doubts into her mind. You left him to die. You wanted to forget. You walked away from the world. Each one stepped forward, eyes hollow, skin cracked with regret. The blades in their hands were black. Her older self slashed at them, buying seconds. You can't kill them. You have to accept them. Lyra understood. She dropped her weapon. The false Lyras surged toward her, and she opened her arms. They struck her, and passed through like smoke. One by one, they disappeared into her. With each touch, pain bloomed. Regret, guilt, weakness, and then resolve, strength, clarity. She saw herself not as broken, but whole, because of her failures, not despite them. The last fragment entered her, and the light inside exploded. The echo screamed as if a billion futures turned to fire. Its body splintered, bleeding possibilities that no longer served it. It staggered back, smaller now, no longer infinite. It turned to flee, vanishing through a tear in reality. But Lyra followed. She flew through the breach, surrounded by the blaze of her unified soul. Worlds passed in an instant. She saw alien stars, forgotten civilizations, fractured timelines littered with corpses. She saw what humanity could have become, a species that gave up, gave in, faded into entropy. She wouldn't let that happen. She reached the echo in the heart of the wound. It looked at her for the first time as something it could not consume. Being of will, a force of choice, she touched its core and forgave it. The echo unraveled. The wound closed, and Lyra woke. She was lying on green grass under a blue sky, birdsong drifting through warm air. Real birds, real wind. She sat up, blinking. No spire, no light, just the world, as it had never been. The sky above shimmered gold for a heartbeat, then faded to blue. She stood slowly. Her body felt new. Not lighter, more, as though every version of herself had become part of her, woven into her bones. A familiar voice spoke behind her. You did it. She turned. Her older self stood there. Not scarred, not worn, but whole and smiling. You'll forget me soon, she said softly. You'll forget all of this. The mind can't hold forever. Lyra frowned. Will I forget why I did it? Her older self stepped closer, pressing a hand to her heart. No, that part never fades. The world trembled gently. Lyra looked to the horizon. Cities were rebuilding in the distance, towering structures of glass and green, clean air, laughter on the wind. Humanity had survived. No, humanity had evolved. You're ready now, the older self said. Go. Walk into the new world. Lyra took a step forward, then stopped. I never got to say goodbye, she said quietly. You did, the other her whispered. They heard you, all of them. And with that, the older Lyra faded into golden dust. Alone now, Lyra stepped into the world reborn. Every breath she took carried the weight of what she had done, and the hope of what was to come. But as the sky shimmered again, just faintly, a ripple of gold across the horizon, a shadow stirred in its wake. Something else had noticed what she had done, and it had started to move. The air shifted. A breeze moved against Lyra's skin, not warm, not cold, just wrong. She turned slowly, her eyes adjusting to a sky that wasn't hers anymore. The clouds had stopped moving. The sun no longer cast shadows. Everything around, Her had gone perfectly still, like the world had taken a breath it refused to release. A whisper slid through the silence, not in any language she knew, but she understood it all the same. You closed one door, but not all of them. She spun. Around, no one, nothing. Just a horizon that didn't quite align, as if reality had forgotten how to stitch itself together. The green hills began to blur at the edges, pixelating like a corrupted memory. Lyra's fingers tingled. The ember, the fused shard and light, still pulsed beneath her ribs, but dimmer now. Tired. She looked down at her hands. For a split. Second, they were someone else's, older, thinner, wearing a ring she'd never owned. Then they were hers again. A low thrum rose from the ground beneath her. Not a tremor, something deeper, older, like the roots of time were shifting. She stumbled, then dropped to one knee as the wind rose, howling without sound. And in the center of the stillness appeared a figure. It wore her face, but this was no echo. It didn't shimmer. It didn't glitch. It smiled. You walked into the light, it said, voice like hers but laced with static. You never looked back, but you left the gate open. Lyra rose slowly. You're not me. The doppelganger tilted its head. No, but I am what comes next. A second figure stepped from the blur, then a third, a fourth, all of them Lyra, slightly different, one with gray eyes, one with scorched skin, one wearing armor made of bone and glass. All of them smiling that same calm, terrifying smile. You think you won? One said. You think you healed the wound, said another. But the wound was never the problem, the first Lyra said. It was the response. Behind them, the world cracked open again. But this time, it didn't split like before. It peeled. A giant circular tear opened in the air, like a pupil dilating in the eye of existence. Beyond it wasn't darkness. It was order, cold, perfect symmetry. Geometric patterns spinning without end, a void of impossible logic. Lyra backed away. What is that? The architects, the Lyras whispered in unison. They built the echo, built the light, built us. She shook her head. That's not true. The light came from the wound. Yes, said one. But the wound was a crack in their design. You thought the light was hope. Another stepped forward. It was a failsafe, a flame to burn the infected timeline. I weren't supposed to survive, said a third. The real Lyra stared at them, her heartbeat racing. So what now? You want to finish what the echo couldn't? No, said the original doppelganger. We want to recruit you. Lyra blinked. What? You're the anomaly now, it said. Unpredictable, immune to control. You stepped into the light and came back with more than memory. You came back awake. The spinning geometry in the rift intensified. Light patterns wrapped around her feet, not burning, not binding, just watching. You have one choice left, said the Lyras together. Come with us. Learn what comes after this world. What you really are. And if I say no? Lyra asked, her voice low. The original copy smiled wider. Then we close the gate, and your people sleep forever. No more growth, no more futures, just peace. Still, lifeless peace. You bought them time, but not freedom. The ember in her chest burned again. Fiercer now, alive. Lyra could feel it reaching out, not just to the Lyras, but through them, into the rift, into the machine minds behind it all. She clenched her fists. You want me to become like you? The doppelganger nodded. No. We want you to become what you were always meant to be, the first human to ascend. Lyra looked to the horizon. The reborn cities shimmered in the distance. People laughed, walked, built. They didn't know what was coming, didn't feel the pull of the machine through the sky, They thought it was over. It wasn't. "Let me see them," Lyra said. "The architects. Show me." The copies stepped aside. The rift widened. Beyond it she saw them, tall as mountains. No eyes, no mouths, only shapes, moving through time with cold, perfect grace. They turned in unison toward her, and though they never spoke, she heard it. She is the deviation. She must be isolated or reprogrammed, or she must be integrated. A tremor shook her spine. Then something even stranger happened. One of the architects broke from the group. It stepped forward and bowed. The doppelgangers froze. "Protocol breach," one of them whispered. The architect lifted its head, and it changed, shifted, became smaller, human, familiar. It looked like her father. "No," Lyra breathed. "No, you're not." "I was," it said. "And I will be again, but only if you make the right choice." She backed away from the rift, suddenly unsure. "What are you saying?" "I chose integration," the father architect said. "Long before you were born, I became part of the pattern, but part of me remained human. I waited for you." Lyra's heart thundered. The ember burned brighter. "You can become more," he said, "or you can go back. But if you go back, you'll never be free. The world will remain watched, managed." She looked at the city again, at the people who trusted her, who had no idea their peace was only allowed, not earned. She stepped forward, then stopped. She looked at the rift, then down at her hand. It was trembling, not with fear, but with power. "I'll go," she said quietly. The doppelgangers nodded. The father thing smiled. Lyra walked into the rift, and the world behind her stopped changing. As the gate closed, the skies above Earth shimmered one last time. A golden pulse rolled across the clouds, then faded. And in the silence that followed, a child looked up, pointed and whispered, "Something's coming." She stood in nothing. No up, no down, just a void of shifting light and soundless vibration. Her body floated, but she felt no weight, no breath. Lyra had crossed through the rift and into something far older than existence. The architects did not move with time. They were time, threading possibilities like threads through a needle's eye, weaving fate with precision that defied mortality. And now she was inside that machine. The father-shaped architect hovered before her. Its face was kind but wrong, like a mask remembering how to be human. It spoke not with voice, but with meaning. "You've stepped beyond the story. You are now part of the weave." Lyra's thoughts blurred at the edges. Her mind stretched as data poured into her consciousness, memories that weren't hers, futures not yet born, lives that flickered in and out like candle flames. She saw the first human to split an atom, the last human to die in a forgotten war, the woman who would sing the song that saved a dying species. They were all her, or could be. "There are possibilities," she murmured, her voice echoing through herself. "Every choice, a fork. Every fork, a thread." The architect nodded, and Lyra felt the nod in her bones. Then came the others. A ring of beings, some human-like, some not, formed around her. Architects, watchers, time's engineers. She felt their minds press against hers, scanning, testing, evaluating. Her pulse quickened. "She's unstable," one said, though its voice carried no sound. "Too much emotional variance." "She's perfect," said another. "Chaos adapts where order fails." "She must choose," the father shape said. "Full integration or return." "What does integration mean?" Lyra asked, her voice smaller now. A sphere of light appeared in the void. Inside, she saw herself. Not now, but soon. Towering above Earth, golden and endless. Her thoughts fused with networks, her soul riding the currents of causality like a conductor. Every decision made simultaneously. She was time. She was the force that pushed humanity toward its next evolution. But in that future, she was also alone. Entirely. No laughter, no pain, no touch, no human. She turned away. No. Then return, the circle said. But then I leave Earth vulnerable, she whispered. You'll watch them, influence them. The void pulsed. A third option flickered between the other two. She saw herself split again, not into copies, but versions. One that remained above, guiding unseen. One that returned, fully mortal, memory stripped. And one that watched from the edges, never belonging, never interfering. 3 paths, the circle said. Pick one. Lyra closed her eyes. She saw her mother's face, her brother's laughter, the hands that had pulled her from rubble, the soldiers who had died for a chance at peace. And then she saw a new face, a child, a girl, eyes wide, hair like hers, laughing in a field of tall golden grass. A daughter. She opened her eyes. I choose the 4th path, she said. The void rippled. There is no 4th, one architect warned. There is now, Lyra said. She reached into her chest and pulled the ember free. It glowed like a sun. The circle recoiled. That is not allowed. It is mine, Lyra said, and I give it to the people. She crushed it in her hand. The light exploded outward, not in destruction, but in sharing. Threads of it stretched out, piercing the void, cutting through. Control, weaving into every potential human mind, not all at once, slowly, quietly, like seeds waiting for spring. She gave every human soul a spark, something hidden, buried deep, something the architects couldn't see. Choice. Real, unfiltered, unpredicted choice. The void screamed, not with rage, with surprise. No one's ever done this, one whispered. Walked into the light, the father-shaped architect murmured, and never looked back. Lyra smiled. Then she fell. The world rushed up to meet her. She slammed back into reality with a gasp, air flooding her lungs, dirt under her hands. The sky was still blue, the city still alive. But now, different. She saw it in the people's eyes, a flicker of awareness, of dreaming wide. She stood. Her body ached, but her mind buzzed. Then a sharp sound echoed in the distance, screaming. Flames. She ran toward the noise. A crater had opened in the center of the reborn city. People stood around it, confused, pointing. Lyra pushed through the crowd and saw what had arrived. A figure lay in the center, curled on the ground. A woman, breathing, with Lyra's face, but not any version she remembered. This one was younger, barely, a teenager. Her eyes opened, and they were full of terror. Where? Where am I? The girl whispered. Lyra froze. The crowd murmured. Phones rose. The news would spread. Another Lyra had arrived. Not a doppelganger, not an echo, a new one, fresh, unshaped. And something else rose behind her in the sky. A ship, sleek, alien, designed not by humans, not by architects, but by something else. Something that had watched even the architects. A signal blasted from it. Then silence. Lyra stepped back, breath catching. The 4th path had opened something far beyond her control. And now, it was walking through. The ship descended without sound, its edges rippling like glass in water, distorting the clouds behind it. It wasn't made of metal, not like anything Lyra had seen. It shimmered like frozen thought, flickering between shapes and angles her eyes didn't want to hold. People backed away, murmuring, some frozen in place, others running without knowing why. The girl in the crater, young Lyra, stared up at the sky, her mouth trembling as if she'd seen it before. But she couldn't have, because that ship hadn't existed until now. Lyra pushed forward through the crowd, forcing her steps steady. The ember was gone, but something else hummed in her chest. Resonance, maybe. A memory of the architect's patterns, still faintly alive in her blood. She stepped into the crater and knelt beside the girl. "What's your name?" Lyra asked gently. The girl flinched. I don't know. I think it's Lyra." "It is," she said. "But not mine. Not exactly. You're not a copy. You're something new." The girl looked up, tears shining. "I had a dream. A man made of light told me to run. Then everything tore open, and I fell." Lyra felt cold crawl up her spine. That wasn't from the void. That was from before. The ship landed. No ramp extended. No doors opened. But something emerged, tall, angular, wrapped in tendrils of woven light and shadow. Its head shimmered with fractals. It walked with impossible silence, feet never quite touching. The ground, its presence hit like gravity. The crowd fell completely still. Then it spoke, not in words, not in language, but into Lyra's bones. "You broke the seal. You fractured the watchtower. Now we return." Lyra stepped in front of the girl. "Who are you?" "We are the Stray." The sky dimmed as the clouds thickened, not from weather, but from presence. Dozens, maybe hundreds of ships began to appear on the horizon, all the same shape, all the same wrongness. We watched as the architects bound you. We were cast out when they chose order, but you brought choice. You cracked the pattern. The girl behind her began to shake. "I think I know them. I dreamed about them before I was born." Lyra turned her head slowly. "Before you were born?" The Stray moved closer. "She is your echo made real, not projection, not variant. She is the result of interference." "Your interference." Lyra clenched her fists. "I didn't summon her. You opened the fourth path, and paths must be walked." Around her, the ships began to hum. The people watching began to fall to their knees, some clutching their heads, others whispering names that weren't theirs. Lyra's heart pounded. "What do you want?" The Stray tilted its head. "We do not want. We respond. This world is free, which means it must be tested." Lightning crackled across the sky. Then, something shifted. A hand touched Lyra's wrist. The girl, her eyes were glowing. Gold and white and red all at once. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if not fully bound to the laws of this world. "I know what I am," the girl whispered. "You made me when you gave the light away. I'm the balance." Lyra swallowed. "You're me, evolved. I'm not you. I'm who they'll become." The Stray stopped moving. It looked at the girl with something that felt like surprise. "The vessel speaks." The girl walked toward the Stray, and it stepped back. "I'm not your vessel," the girl said. "I'm the firewall." Energy erupted from her chest, not just light, sound, heat, memory, future. It struck the Stray with the force of choice itself. The creature stumbled, the ground cracking beneath it. Lyra staggered back, shielding her eyes. The other ships rose, suddenly uncertain. The girl turned to Lyra. "I'm going to hold them, but I can't do it forever. You need to finish what you started." Lyra stepped forward. "How?" "The world needs to remember it can fight without gods. No light, no ember. Just us." The girl raised her arms. Wings of burning data flared from her back. The Stray screamed, and she launched upward, straight into the sky, where the swarm of ships had begun to form a ring. She collided with them. A golden nova exploded in silence, the eye. Ships fractured, shattered, but not all. Lyra turned as the crowd behind her began to move again, some dazed, some bleeding from the nose, others simply blinking, confused. She ran to the edge of the crater and shouted, "Everyone get inside! This isn't over," some obeyed. Others didn't. But she moved anyway, because one of the ships had survived. It hovered low, scanning, and from its underbelly dropped another figure. Human. A man. Alive. He landed hard, rolled, and stood, eyes sharp, bleeding from one temple. He looked around, locked eyes with her, and smiled. Lyra. She froze. "Do I know you?" He grinned. "Not yet, but you will." Then he raised his hand, and everything stopped. Everything froze, wind suspended mid-gust, dust hanging in the air like specks of frozen light, people caught mid-motion, wide-eyed and breathless. Lyra blinked, heart hammering in the sudden stillness. She could move. So could the man. Nothing else. He lowered his hand slowly. "Time's thin here. This moment is borrowed." Lyra stepped forward cautiously, scanning his face. He looked human, young, but his eyes held centuries. "Who are you?" He smiled, not cruelly, but with weight. "You called me, even if you didn't mean to. When you fractured the weave and gave humanity choice, you opened a gate even the architects couldn't predict." "I didn't summon anyone," she said, fists clenched. "I gave humanity freedom. And that was the call," he said softly. "You don't understand what that kind of spark does in the dark. It doesn't just light the room. It draws attention." Lyra swallowed, glancing at the sky. The girl was gone. The stray was scattered, but not defeated. "Are you one of them?" "No," he said. "They were the forgotten children of the architects. I'm from something older." A chill rolled through her. He nodded. "Before the architects, there were the null, the ones who believed in silence, in endings, in stillness eternal. They created nothing. They only undid." Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "You're one of them." "I'm the last," he said, "and I chose not to end. I walked into the light once too, but I turned back." She stepped back. "Why are you here?" "Because the stray were only the beginning. You think the light was a gift. It was a weapon. You handed every human soul a match and left them in a forest soaked in fuel." Lyra's fists shook. "They deserved the choice." He tilted his head. "They did. And now they'll have to pay the price. Not for making choices, but for being noticed. There are things beyond the stray. Things that were waiting for the weave to break." "No," Lyra whispered. "Yes," he said. "And they're already coming." He turned slightly, and the air rippled behind him. A tear formed, black and wide, with edges fraying like a wound. Through it, Lyra saw nothing. Not darkness, not shadow, just absence. A place where reality unstitched itself, where thought collapsed inward. She felt her heartbeat falter just looking at it. "They're called the Hollowed," the man said. "They don't speak. They don't want. They erase." "And you're leading them here?" She spat. "No," he said. "I'm warning you, because once I was like you, and I failed to stop them." She stared at the rip. "Why now?" "Because the fourth path you chose wasn't an end. It was an invitation. Humanity evolved, yes, but without guidance, without shields. You opened the door, and now you have to hold it." Lyra looked around, at the frozen world. The sky still crackled with residual energy. The city was half broken, half awake. And in the center of it all, her, always her. "Then help me," she said. "If you know them, help stop them." He shook his head slowly. "I'm not allowed to interfere anymore. That's what the fourth path costs. But I can give you this." He reached into his chest and pulled out something small, a compass. But instead of directions, it had pulses, shifting lines of energy, always moving. "This points to convergence," he said, "where paths tangle, where people matter, not powerful people, important people. Use it to find the ones who will help." "You." Lyra took it, her fingers trembling. "What happens when they arrive?" He looked past her toward the rip. They won't come with fire. Or invasion. They'll come in silence, in dreams, in forgetfulness. They'll make people stop caring. And that's how the world ends, not with war, but with nothing. Lyra looked down at the compass. Its light flickered, then pulsed. A direction. The man stepped back toward the rip. I was the first to resist. You might be the last, or the beginning of something else. She looked up. Will I see you again? He gave a small smile. You'll know when you do. He stepped into the tier and vanished. The world snapped back into motion. Wind roared. Sounds returned like a thunderclap. People screamed. A baby cried. Someone shouted her name. And above it all, the sky began to change. Not dark, not golden, just gray, colorless, forgettable, and she felt it, something brushing against the edge of thought, like a dream already fading. She clutched the compass. It pulsed again, west. She turned, started, running, because the Hollowed were coming, and only those who remembered the light could stop them.